entrepreneurs embedded all over the county. However, those entrepreneurs haven't been able to get into a place where they can connect, and ideas really spawn from that. So it's really nice to be able to be a part of a community that can connect.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of Commissioner's Corner. I appreciate you taking the time to check it out. We are going to learn about all things VIBE. And so if you're going to catch the vibe, you want to make sure that you stay tuned. So you'll learn a lot. Welcome back to this episode of Commissioner's Corner. Joining me now is Elena Imbach, who is the co-founder of VIBE Coworks here in Poulsbo. And Elena, thank you so much for taking the time to be part of the program today.
Thanks for having me.
So for our folks that are tuning in right now, a coworks is maybe a phrase that they're not too familiar with, right? So I think it's a new concept in Kitsap County for sure, and Poulsbo. So can you start off by telling our viewers a little bit, what is co-working?
Co-working is essentially a new way of doing work. So it's kind of taking the way that we've always done things, which tends to be, with our collective teams, possibly in a silo in traditional offices or commuting or in a home office, and pulling all of that together. So it's essentially a physical space, a co-working space, where people from all different walks of life, all different specialties, all different professions come to do work independently, but alongside other people.
So Elena, tell our viewers a little bit about how you and your husband Marcel kind of came up with this idea of co-working.
It's really ironic, actually. My coworkers laugh when they hear what we're up to, because I was the biggest cynic and critic of co-working spaces when I was first exposed to it. And it really came about, I worked for a large international nonprofit. And so on a nonprofit budget, we had outgrown our space and needed to move someplace else, but couldn't find very quickly office space to move into. So the interim solution was that the organization purchased a membership for each of us, and each team had to go work at a co-working space 1 day a week.
Oh.
And I thought it was a terrible idea. I didn't want to carry my stuff around. I liked having my fixed spot at my desk. I was certain it was going to break up the team dynamics. I saw everything horrible about this idea. And obviously I've since become the biggest convert. What happened was we got into the space that we had been sent to, and for the first time found ourselves surrounded by people from, like I say, all different industries, all different walks of life, that really kind of, A, opened our eyes to different ways of doing things, and B, we suddenly had the contacts that we needed to take our projects to the next level. So, for example, we were often looking for videographers, but we didn't have any videographer contacts. We were constantly just looking through, the phone book, essentially. Well, suddenly we're in a space where we've got lawyers nearby who could potentially review contracts, videographers nearby who could help us with videos. I mean, you name it, we had those people around us. And the real critical difference is that we came to have real human relationships first, and then entered into different projects together, knowing that we already kind of liked each other and thought what they were doing was cool, and they knew what they were doing and had a real understanding of how we might work together, as opposed to it feeling like a business transaction the way that it usually would. And that's when I kind of said, this co-working thing is cool, and I'm hooked.
Well, so it's not new then in concept. It's happened, it's a national thing. Is it done internationally?
Yes, yes, and yes. So co-working started, they say that its roots really kind of grew in about 2005, and most people point to San Francisco, saying that it really first started when a lot of software developers had been working out of their living rooms and garages and got lonely. And so this idea of like, hey, why don't we come together and do something independently but together? And from there it's grown. I guess I've just recently moved from New York, where there's co-working spaces everywhere. It's global. And one of the things that's interesting is to see how it's evolved, where, in 2005, say it happened to have been a lot of software developers. What you see now is, enterprise companies, so brick and mortar companies, finding as much value in the co-working model as independent workers, freelancers. So in some cases, they're taking entire teams and placing them in co-working spaces where they're exposed to different people and ideas and ways of doing things.
So it sounds like the co-working allows or facilitates sort of that human relationship building that you said that you generally have with coworkers. In this case, it may not be someone that works for your company, but you're still building that relationship, and then the synergies kind of take place so that that collaboration can occur.
Yeah, and it's kind of, we keep saying it's almost like a real life LinkedIn, or like the networking, the stuff that for most people is really awkward, it feels forced, it's uncomfortable, like you say the word networking event and a lot of people cringe. Well, this kind of takes it, it's like these are people that I happen to be with all day. We're doing different things, but yet that network grows really organically.
So how did you go about sort of exploring the market for co-working here in Kitsap and Poulsbo and specifically, so that you knew that there's that opportunity for that synergy and vitality to occur here?
It really, VIBE grew from something very personal. So my husband and I'm from the area. I've been away for 17 years. Wanted to be back here, largely because of the quality of life. My family's here. But we weren't, both my husband and I have jobs that can be done remotely, that are global in scope. And so we could do it from here, but we were really afraid that we were going to miss that dynamism and kind of that community that we had in the co-working spaces that we were familiar with from New York. Both my husband and I were members of spaces there. So that's when we looked around and said, hey, what if we could move back to Kitsap County, an area that we love, a community that we love, and what if we could take our jobs with us? Because for us, as we looked around, we said, I don't think we're going to find work in the career path that we're passionate about. So from there, we went from this little seed of an idea of like, let's find a place and paint it cool and invite fun people to come work alongside, and that's really grown to what is now VIBE Coworks, which I really see as something having the potential to really positively impact a lot of people in this area.
So not too far from where we're sitting today is going to be the future home of VIBE Coworks, which is pretty exciting because not only have I had the opportunity to do a hard hat tour there, but also had a chance to do some virtual reality experiences too, to sort of explore the space. I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about that as well, but I think for our viewers, they're kind of seeing this background around us, and we're in the VIBE Coworks Lab. So why the lab? Obviously, so you're open, and folks need to know about it. So can you tell us a little bit about what's happening here in this space?
Yeah. So this has been a whole journey to get where we're at. Like I said, when we made the decision that we personally wanted to move back to the area, we did a lot of research. The Kitsap Economic Development Alliance was a huge help to us in looking at the data and the numbers and saying, hey, are we the only ones thinking like this? And the numbers pointed to no. So according to now slightly older census numbers, Kitsap County, you've got 15,000 people working from home and about 47,000 people that commute outside of the county each day for work.
Wow.
So when we saw those numbers, we said, okay, this does make sense. And as timing or luck or whatever, innovation would have it, we got talking to Peter Crabtree, who owns Chocmo High Spirits and new going to be the Crabtree Kitchen and Bar. And they were looking for a place to expand at the time. And we said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if there was a kind of central place where you could go, where you could work, you could eat, and you could drink, and you could do all of those things together. So as we started looking around for a place to call home for VIBE Coworks, we said we had the opportunity to co-develop a new building, which wasn't part of our original plan. We're really excited about it. We're excited for all that it represents and the way that the businesses have been designed to be fluid as kind of a central community hub. But obviously that timeline is much longer than what we had originally thought for opening VIBE. So we then had the opportunity to come into this space, which is an existing office space directly next door to the job site. And we decided we had enough people who were saying, hey, we're excited about what you're doing and we want to be there now. So we decided to open what we've called the VIBE Lab. And for us, it's really, we've always said it's not about the space, it's about the people, it's about the community. And so that could be anywhere. We don't need a big fancy building to do that. We can do that here. So this has become kind of our test lab, and that's where the name lab came from. We said, hey, let's test out what programming people like, want and like to come to. Let's test out, before we buy 100 chairs, let's buy 2 of each and let people vote on what's most comfortable. Let's play with the art and see what we like and what we want to put in the new space. So it's truly a testing lab for us.
So I would imagine, though, while it may not have been part of the original plan, being able to design the space from scratch, as opposed to finding a shell or something that has to be reworked, is kind of enables you to do a little bit more, have more creativity in how the space will function.
Yeah, we've been very lucky, I think, to have been able to do that, to co-create it and really design it from the beginning. We've worked with Rice Fergus Miller and Tim Ryan Construction, who, very much to their credit, really understand and embrace kind of the vision that we've been going for. So we've been able to marry kind of their expertise in their respective fields of work with the experience that Marcel and I have both had as members of co-working spaces, and to say, hey, these were elements that we liked, these were elements that we don't like, and these are elements that we think this community here in Kitsap really needs. So some of those things, we've got 3 conference rooms of differing sizes that are designed into the space so that those are rentable by the hour. We've got a mix of some private offices and some kind of what we call flex space, so anybody can pop down with a laptop. We've got phone booths, so private, quiet spaces that you can go to take a phone call where you don't have background noise or people walking behind if you're doing a video conference. So we've been lucky to be able to kind of, like I say, pool all that talent and expertise and experience to something we think really fits for here.
I know, maybe if you can guide us verbally through the space, since we're not in this space, but we'll hopefully have some images. If someone were walking into the future VIBE Coworks space, what would they see, and what are some of the amenities that they would have an opportunity to experience?
So we are on the 2nd floor of this new building, and one of the things, it sounds a little bit silly, but moving back to the area, one of the things I was most concerned about is I don't know if I can handle the gray days. I like my sunshine, I want the natural light, and we spent a lot of time looking at, what does it mean to have a healthy workspace? What does that look like? What does it feel like? So I think the first thing you'll notice when you walk in is how light it is. We've got tons and tons of windows, many of which are floor to ceiling. We've got operable windows, which means we'll have natural fresh air. And so you'll walk in, there's a lot of glass. You'll walk in kind of the main area, you'll come to a cool lounge space, you'll come to what we call the welcome desk. So if you're a member, you'll come in and say hi, we'll sign you in. If you have guests coming in, obviously we'll kind of take note of them there, welcome them. And then you'll come in and you'll have the kind of heart of the space is really what we're calling a community kitchen. So we've got, coffee, tea, water on tap, refrigerators, a big community island that is really meant to be a place where you can come and gather together, have lunch, have people join you. You could take an informal meeting there if you'd like, but kind of a hangout space. And then off to one side, you've got 2 of the conference rooms. So one is about a 4-person and the other is about a 14-person conference room, and then a mix of kind of round, kind of coffee shop style tables that are around. And that end of the space, it's designed so that we can host larger events there. So you could do a hackathon, a seminar, a larger conference, something with a bigger group, without disrupting everyone that's at the other side of the space that wants to continue to use their drop-in privileges, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
And off that back end, we have some cool garage doors that open. We've got a back covered balcony space, so you can literally sit outside and look over Centennial Park while you're working off that side.
Very nice.
So that's the one side. As you head down the other direction, you'll pass through, we've got kind of a bank of private offices that range in size from 1 to 3 people. And then you'll come into another kind of open space with longer bench tables, that same idea. You come, plop your laptop down, find a spot, and you can work there as long as you'd like. One more conference room, an 8-person, and then a mix again of phone booths and kind of a quieter area. Whiteboards everywhere, lots of whiteboarding.
So I have this, tell me if I'm wrong, but probably from your prior co-work experience, that is there a potential dynamic, kind of like commuting on the ferry, where everybody has their favorite spot? Does that kind of evolve where there's kind of this routine, we are all creatures of pattern?
Yeah.
And that kind of happens, so therefore you kind of build relationships with those people who tend to work around you?
I think definitely. I mean, like you say, we are creatures of habit, right? And we've seen that even here at the VIBE Lab. We opened the VIBE Lab at the end of September, and people definitely have their favorite spots. But it's interesting. So that's one of the things, kind of our role as what we call community managers within the space, is to kind of help people break the ice, get talking to each other. And again, we're working on building out a pretty robust plan of programming. So different types of, whether it's lunch and learns, whether it's afternoon sessions, whether it's after hours type stuff, but different subject areas that people are interested in learning something, teaching something, or just getting together. And that helps kind of break people out of what might otherwise come to just be your cow trail silos again.
So you talked about sort of the private office space. My understanding is that's all now fully subscribed or fully leased out?
Yeah, so the way that co-working spaces work, we've got the bank of, like I say, 6 private offices that right now we're running wait lists on them. We've got a really great mix of startups, nonprofit, tech, real estate. I think that about captures the 6 that are in there. So they're on kind of a longer, it's the co-working model is based to be like maximum flexibility. So no one is locked into any long-term leases. It's really flexible on a month-to-month basis. The private offices have slightly longer terms to them, but we're looking at probably quarterly. Whereas the rest of the memberships, I always say it's like a gym for your business. So we have different models that some people come on a drop-in daily basis. Some people purchase, the rest of them are monthly. So you can have 5 days a month, 12 days a month, or full-time. And you don't have to sign up. You just know that that's your pass for the month, and you come and go whatever days you choose. And people like that a lot because it's flexible and matches with the way that they actually do work.
Right. I know that for myself, I'm probably on the road most of the time, so the maximum kind of flexibility but knowing that I had a base camp to sort of stop in and have meetings or follow up on email or phone calls would be great. So we talked about kind of the design and how that creates a synergy. So have you heard thus far from a lot of folks that tend to be that market, that maybe they were startups, maybe they have been sole proprietors in their homes, but they are kind of looking for more of interaction and community? Have you been hearing kind of that bubble up from folks that have been inquiring?
Yeah, definitely. We've heard, so we've got some members have been working from home for a number of years. Some people have been commuting and are tired of the commute. We've got a number of people who have been in very nice offices, but have been one-person offices basically, and they say, like, hey, I miss the human connection of it. So we've got kind of the whole spectrum of different types and ways of working. We also have what we've called organizational memberships. So some organizations that basically have remote teams, so they might have 9 people on your team, all of whom are working out of their car, out of their home, wherever it may be, on the road. And what they've chosen to do is get an organizational membership that any of their team members can use against. So X organization has a membership for 12 days per month, and then any of their team members can come and use against those days. So that's been cool too, to see the teams having a base to come land at, whether it's together or apart.
So they'll have to manage that internally. If one of the coworkers is sort of hoarding all of the days, they can navigate that one themselves, right?
We'll stay out of it.
Yeah.
We'll tell you how many days are left in the pool.
Definitely. So you posed kind of an interesting point that I wanted to kind of circle back to, and that being, it's not necessarily VIBE per se, but in terms of being a young family, having left the area and coming back, we often hear folks, concerned about the brain drain or people leaving. What are the opportunities for young families in Kitsap County? So, if you wouldn't mind kind of going down that path a little bit and sharing your experiences, what's that been like to sort of come back as a family and sort of get reestablished here and looking at the opportunities and how that's been? And
I think for us, so Marcel and I have 3-year-old twins. So we're definitely in the young family category, and that was a big impetus for us choosing to leave New York. So we came, when we were looking on our priority list of what we wanted in a place where we were living and working, we were looking at affordability, we were looking at schools, we were looking at community, and we were looking at people. So we found all of that here. I didn't necessarily ever imagine that I would be back in the area, but when we actually went down our checklist, we said, hey, this was an amazing place to grow up. The community is fantastic. We've got every opportunity here for us, except for the jobs that we want to do, the type of jobs that we're really looking for. And that's when we started to realize, like, this co-working thing really is a huge opportunity, not just for us, but I think a lot of people who might like to be living here, but for whatever reason haven't been able to before, or thought that that wasn't an option, or thought that you had to go to a bigger city to either have the networks, the connections, or the jobs that you'd find there, that suddenly, could this be a place where you could find that and still stay in the community you love?
And you've mentioned earlier on the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance was sort of assistance in terms of doing some of the research and about the demographics of our workforce in the county. And you've gotten involved a bit with KEDA as well. So what would your advice be to another entrepreneur looking at the community as a place to sort of roll up their sleeves and put down roots and consider Kitsap?
I think to us, this is, I keep coming back to this word community, because I think that's such a key piece of what has drawn us here and what keeps us here. And KEDA, as you say, has been immensely useful to us in terms of the data and helping us decide, where to open our first location. We do hope to have additional locations in the region, but we kind of looked at it and said, hey, where's the smart place to open the first one? The libraries have also been immensely useful to us with the resources that they have, a lot of free stuff that I didn't realize was out there, and they're great with a lot of kind of business data. But I think for us too, we spent a lot of time just meeting for lunch with people. We kind of found a few key champions who really got what we were trying to do, and they offered to extend invitations out and let's sit down and have lunch and let's throw this idea on the table and say, hey, are we crazy? And this being as tight-knit of a community as it is, that really helped us to understand where the opportunities, where the risks might be. It was just, that's been really helpful to us, is the people, again, the relationships.
A community of a focus group, or a focus group
kind
of
of
community. And
yeah.
So what haven't we talked about that you want to make sure that our viewers will have an opportunity to understand about VIBE Coworks and what they might be able to expect and why they might want to check it out?
I think for us, we keep coming back to, what is VIBE and what is it that we're trying to do? And we keep saying we really want to be an enabling platform. So we're trying to create the structure and the space and the opportunity for people to make it their own. So I guess, a big message for us would be, come and make this yours. If there's something that you're itching to teach or learn or connect with, or if you're feeling like, we get a lot of people who kind of feel like they're lone soldiers, feel like I'm the only one here who's doing X type of work and all of my counterparts or colleagues are in Seattle or elsewhere. And what we're finding is there's a lot of lone soldiers here. So if we can be kind of a gathering place for those people to help connect with each other, we'll have succeeded in kind of what we're set out to do.
So when somebody comes to VIBE Coworks to work, and what are those sort of the basic services or amenities that they would have, so that they know that I would imagine people aren't toting their own computer printers around maybe, or their own Wi-Fi, or hubs. So what are the other services? Because I think if this were sort of someone's base camp, potentially even receiving some business-related mail or something.
Yeah. So we have high-speed internet. We've got monitors, actually, as a kind of grab and go. So if you're tired of looking down at your laptop the whole time and just want to hook up to a bigger monitor, we've got monitors that you can grab. We've got printers. copiers, scanners, all that stuff. The conference rooms are set up on AirPlay for anyone who's on Macs and just wants to kind of broadcast up what they're working on, HDMI cables for anyone else. Video conferencing, business mail, as you say, we don't have that here at the lab, but we will when we move over to the new building. What else am I forgetting? I guess I would say the conference rooms is a little bit the exception to the rest of the typical beast in that the conference rooms are available to anyone to book on an hourly basis. So you do not have to be a member of VIBE in order to use the conference rooms.
That's good to know.
If you have a VIBE membership, depending on the level of membership that you have, you'll have a certain number of conference room credits that are built into that. So that's an amenity that we're happy for people to know about as well.
Well, great. Excellent. Well, Elena, thank you so much for agreeing to be part of the program today. I'm really appreciative of the fact that you're bringing this concept to Kitsap County. I think that the energy and the synergy that has the opportunity to really grow here, I just see some phenomenal stuff happening, and whether or not somebody's moving from that spare bedroom in their house or their garage or wherever the case may be, but they can come together and create community, but also I think be a backbone that's really going to help shape and support what the Kitsap economy is in the future in many ways, because most businesses are small businesses and looking to be able to have these tools in their toolbox without having to recreate it, I think is a phenomenal thing. So thank you very much for being part of it. And for all of our viewers today, make sure you check out the information at the end of the program. We'll have the website and any of the other contact information that will be helpful so that you can explore what VIBE Coworks is and check it out and see if it's right for you. So thanks a lot, I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.